The pressure is on as the trade deadline nears and the Orlando Magic continue to sink. What Jeff Weltman faces and why trade won't fix everything today on Locked On Magic.
You are Locked On Magic, your daily Orlando Magic podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And you are indeed Locked On Magic. Today is February 5th, 2025. My name is Philip Rossman. I'm the senior writer over at OrlandoMagicDaily.com. Of course, find me on Twitter at PhilipRR_OMD and on Blue Sky at PhilipRR. On today's episode of Locked On Magic, the pressure Jeff Weltman faces to help this team evolve. Why the Magic, falling short of their standard, now turns the attention to the Magic's decision maker to do something he has not done yet. We'll talk about that coming up here in just a moment. First, we want to thank you again for making Locked On Magic part of your day every day, no matter when you listen to us, whether it's first thing in the morning, whether it's right we upload. We truly appreciate you making Locked On Magic a part of your day every day, and you can make Locked On Magic an even bigger part of your day with the Locked On Magic daily newsletter. It's the one-stop for all the team and league coverage delivered right to your inbox. Sign up for free now at LockedOnDaily.com. That's LockedOnDaily.com. And start today with the all-new free Locked On Magic newsletter. Today's episode of Locked On Magic is sponsored by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. The Orlando Magic have not hit any roadblocks. They haven't. Since they traded Nikola Vucevic back in the trade deadline in 2021, the Orlando Magic have seemingly been on this inevitable rise, this inevitable march of progress. 25 wins to 35 wins to 47 wins. In the last 3 years, since the Magic decided to hit the reset button, everything has gone exactly how they hoped it would go. They drafted Franz Wagner. They drafted Paolo and Banchero. Those two players coalesced. They became all-star level players. The Magic got to the playoffs. They got to Game 7. Everything just seemed to be marching onward and onward and onward. The Magic haven't had to do very much because their young players just seem to get better. Internal development seemed to be working. Growth seemed to be happening. And even after a playoff series that still presented clear weaknesses the Magic needed to answer for and needed to adjust for, they looked at their roster and said, yes, we will get better, just naturally with young players improving. Jeff Weltman said it this summer that keeping a roster together, continuity, for as valuable as it might be, only works if you're winning. And the Magic were winning. Their goals became clear. They stated it firmly and clearly for us throughout the course of the season, throughout the course of the offseason, throughout the course of training camp. They wanted a home court advantage. They believed the reason they did not advance out of the first round was because they had to play Game 7 on the road. They believed that if they could get Game 7 or get favorable games at the Kia Center, they'd be able to win and be able to take that next step. Maybe the Magic have been a little bit a victim of their own success. Allowing this success, allowing this clear progress to tell them, let's wait and see how we can improve our key weaknesses, our key weakness, and move forward from there. Maybe that was a big piece of this puzzle. Maybe that is a big piece of why the Magic aren't where they want to be quite yet. Because the Magic did leave some very clear needs unaddressed. They wanted to see if players on the roster could step up and fill those in. But here we are. Magic are in the midst of a stretch of losing 15 of their past 20 games. Injuries decimated the roster. They can't make a shot to save their lives. They have the second worst offense in the league, might be the worst offense in the league at this point. Defense and vibes aren't carrying the day. The vibes are off for the first time in 3 years. And to that point that Jeff Weltman made in the offseason, continuity only works when you're winning. At 3 games under 500 right now, the Magic aren't winning. Continuity is a valuable thing. Players and teams grow and get better because they play together. But teams also have ceilings. Teams also are only as good as they can be. And the truth of the matter is, the fact of the matter is, this Magic team might be as good as it's going to be. Look, I don't think this group is a 3 games under 500 group. I don't think this group is a 500 basketball team. This is still a 45-plus win team when healthy. They haven't been healthy. Like, they're not healthy. But this is the point. None of us believe this team is winning a championship this year or next year. None of us believe this team is in the same stratosphere, in the same conversation as Boston, Cleveland, and now New York. And if that's the case, if that's the conclusion, then it's time to make a trade. Then it's time to help this team elevate and get to the next level. And look, I'll talk about like the big factor in this, but we know, and I think we can safely conclude, even if everything had gone right for the Magic this season, they were going to need to do more. They couldn't just roll back the same roster. They couldn't just be the same team. They need to be more. They need to be better. They need to do more. And this is a new pressure on Jeff Weltman. I see this a lot from fans who are just unsure if Jeff Weltman will be able to make that move. Will be able to make that trade. Will be able to upgrade this roster. He did the easy part. He tore things down. He acted early. He got a good return. He made star-making draft picks. We can debate some of his other picks. We can debate some of his free agent moves. But the team under his watch found stability and found the playoffs again. He has been successful in his tenure so far. But like coaches, like players, this is the new phase of this build. Now comes the phase of finding the right veteran players to piece together with your young stars and affecting the moves and maneuvering around the cap and maneuvering your assets to get the players that put you over the top. Jeff Weltman has not proven that. This Magic team has not proven that. Jamal Mosley has not proven that. Everybody is under fire and under criticism right now because things aren't working. And now it's time, whether it's Thursday, whether it's in the offseason, whether it's both, to be perfectly honest, now it's time to begin tinkering, restructuring, and piecing together the roster that's going to compete and win a championship. That's the pressure that's now on Jeff Weltman. He's done well to this point. I know people will debate the Kentavious Caldwell-Pope signing. It's worked out. Kenny is shooting 38% or like 36, 37% from three since the start of the new year. He's shooting a career high 2-point field goal percentage. His defense has been amazing. Kenny's been good. Took him a while, but he's good. That turned out to be a good signing that the Magic haven't been able to take advantage of because they're not healthy. And, undoubtedly, this team's health is part of how good can we be? Is what are we missing because we're not healthy? But by the same token, We see what the Magic are missing, and we see how much the Magic are reliant on perfect health. And that is not a winning formula either. The Magic are at this stage, are at this place where they have to move forward, where they have to put themselves, they have to make a team that will compete for a championship, will compete to get out of the first round, will compete to be among the elite teams in this conference. The Magic aren't there yet. And so with this roadblock, with this tumble that the Magic have taken, it's not time to bail ship. It's not time to fire everybody. If you do that, you're making a mistake. But it is time to be proactive about getting the team moving forward. And while I have confidence that Jeff Weltman will be able to do that, he hasn't proven that he can do that yet. He's been good at the rebuilding. He's been good at the asset collection part. Now it's time to spend. Now it's time to buy. Buy what you need to make this team great. And that will be the ultimate test over the next several months. But regardless of what Jeff Weltman does, that's not going to save this Magic team. Why the ticket to success is still internal. We'll talk about that coming up here in just a moment. But first, today's episode of Locked On Magic is brought to you by our friends over at Game Time. Looking for tickets to your next big event? Whether it's a concert, a comedy show, or a sports game, finding the right ticket at the right price can be a headache. But with Game Time Picks, it's never been easier. Let me tell you how it works. With Game Time Picks, the app does all the hard work for you. It curates the best deals so you don't have to waste time searching through endless ticket listings. I've been using Game Time Picks for a while now, and the reason why I love it is they have curated deals that make it super simple to find great tickets at a great price. There's no more sifting through thousands of options. You can grab the super deal for a prime seat, and you really won't believe the value. It's a steal. And the seat view feature is a game changer. Before you even hit buy, you can see exactly what your seat's going to look like in the venue. It's so reassuring that you're getting the exact kind of ticket that you want. And the best part, you're covered with Game Time's lowest price guarantee. If you find a better deal somewhere else, they'll refund 110% of the difference. Plus, your tickets are guaranteed to be delivered on time with easy cancellation options if something comes up. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONNBA. That's LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Every one of us should be in agreement that the Magic are going to make a trade here. I think that it has to start at the trade deadline. The way the Magic have sunk like a rock, the way that the Magic are, where the Magic are now in the standings, I don't think they can wait. And so there is a little bit of urgency, not to save the season. This season is ultimately not important in the big scheme of things. We know this team has to make a move. We can look at this, like I said, we can look at this team and say, they're not good enough yet to be a title contender. So how do we get them to be a title contender? And obviously the right role players, some more shooting. There's a lot that this team needs to do and needs to acquire to get where they want to go. It's not cosmetic, so I don't want to dismiss it as that. The Magic need another attacker. They need another playmaker. They need another creator, and they need more shooting. They need the Magic must meaningfully address their offensive issues before the start of next season. I think it should start Thursday. I think it should start by the trade deadline. But they must do something significant and consequential before the start of next season. This team has accomplished a lot, has gone pretty far, but they need to do more. But ultimately this whole project, this whole team is still about Paolo, Banchero, and Franz Wagner. Why are the Magic struggling so much right now? Because Paolo Banchero does not look right. Like, That's the answer. I've talked about it a ton. I feel like I'm mentioning it after every game. It's really hard for this Magic team, and really for any team, to be competitive and successful when their best player is struggling the way that Paolo Banchero is struggling. Since returning from injury, the Magic are, of course, have won only 2 games since Paolo Banchero returned from injury on January 10th. But since returning from injury, Paolo's had good scoring games. Like, it's not like he's not scoring, but he's a high usage player who is struggling massively with efficiency. On Monday, he shot 9 for 24. On Saturday, he was 4 for 19. He was 10 for 23 in Portland, 7 for 21 in Miami, 1 for 14 in the home game against Portland. We expected ups and downs. It's not that we expected this to be a seamless transition for him getting back in the swing of things, but he's been rough. And he's taking a lot of shots. 20, 16, 19, 14, 22, 21, 23, 19, 24 over his last, 10 games? We expected Paolo to have ups and downs. It wasn't going to be seamless for him to come back, but he's really struggling. And this is not saying the Magic should give up on Paolo. I think there's been a lot of confusion about that. I see it in the comments. I see people saying that, you're chasing him off. Like, no, that's not what's happening here. We know he's going to need some time to get back in the swing of things. It's been a month, though. And it's just not there yet. It's not being put together. Paolo will still get his max. He's still super important to this team. He's still super important to this team's future. And you got to just kind of deal with this, because that's the only way he's going to get better. It's the only way he's going to get improved, is just to try and find it. I mentioned it very early on that since he came back, it felt like Paolo wasn't necessarily in the flow of the game. He was working on himself. And you could stomach and live with that because you know how important Paolo Banchero is. So, again, I want to make this really, really clear. I'm not anti-Paolo. I don't believe in this Paolo or Franz thing. Who cares who's the best player? They're both really good, and you're going to need really good players to win in this league. So I don't buy those arguments. But we also have to be honest with ourselves. Paolo Banchero is not Paolo Banchero right now. And that is a big reason why the Magic have struggled to compete. Since returning, the Magic are minus 9.6 points, minus 9.6 per game with Paolo on the floor. He's averaging 19.8 points per game, shooting 38.8% from the floor, 25.8% from 3, and 61.3% from the foul line on just 6.3 free throw attempts per game. He's still got 7 rebounds and 4.4 assists per game, but 3.8 turnovers per game. Frankly, his defense has not been good. Like, again, Paolo will be fine in the long run. But this is what it looks like when your best player isn't playing well. He's not playing well. I don't think that's, that is objectively true. And he'll figure it out, and he's got to get time to figure it out. And the Magic have no choice but to try and help him figure it out and let him figure it out. I think they could be doing more to put him in position to be more successful than he's been, but adding more talent will help with that too. Franz Wagner is the same way. Franz has been a lot more successful since returning. He seems to have found his rhythm a little bit, but he's struggling from 3 still. He's changed his shot form for whatever reason. And all of those struggles are part of why the Magic are where they're at right now. Both Paolo and Franz have not come back cleanly from injury. And maybe it'll break. Maybe it'll just be, right now they're struggling, they're grinding, they're trying to find it. And then maybe on Wednesday against Sacramento, they both, the light bulb clicks off, they find it, and then they start building good games on top of each other. And the Magic start looking like what they did earlier in the season. It literally could happen like that. It's only, Paolo said it after shoot around on Monday. It's just going to take one win for this team to regain some confidence and find itself again. That's why losing to Miami the way they lost to Miami really hurt. That's why losing to Golden State really hurt. Those are games that the Magic had leads in the fourth quarter and just lost it. And if they would have gotten it, if they would have held on for those wins, I think we're looking at a very different outlook for this team. But this is the point. Unless the Magic are out there making some surprise, crazy move, adding a Kobe White, adding an Anthony Simons, adding a Colin Sexton, adding a Cameron Johnson, that makes the team better. Like, more talent is good. But that's not changing the bigger outlook. That still rests on Paolo, Banchero, and Franz Wagner. That is the responsibility of stardom. That is the responsibility they have as this team's max players. Paolo will get his max contract this summer. No matter what we talk about trade-wise, none of it matters if Paolo and Franz aren't playing at an all-star level. And like right now, Paolo's not playing at an all-star level. I don't think I'm breaking news or telling you something different. Paolo's not playing at an all-star level right now. Franz is getting there. Franz is probably there. And the Magic probably need to run things through Franz and just ease Paolo and find a way to ease Paolo in a little bit more. Or the Magic, I think, have not done Paolo any favors. They've thrown him in the deep end. He's struggling with it. They need to do something. They need to change the way that they get him the ball. They need to change the way they approach him until he regains that confidence again. Or until he just feels more comfortable out there. It's not working what they're doing right now. But again, like the Magic have so few attacking options and they don't, really Paolo and Franz are this team's point guards right now. They don't have a choice. And so they're kind of letting their two stars flail a little bit right now. You still go as far as your best players, though. You go as far as your best players will take you. And so none of this is going to change for the Magic until Paolo and Franz are playing like superstars again. Again, Franz has gotten there a little bit. Like, it's there in spurts. Like, he still gets tired. You still see him getting fatigued. Paolo is really struggling to find his rhythm again and kind of get into the groove again. And so it's hard. Like, even if the Magic make a trade on Thursday, Paolo and Franz are still the necessary thing. And everything else is just, I don't want to say rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic, but it's cosmetic until Paolo and Franz get going. And again, you need to find guys that enhance what they do, make their jobs easier. It's time to do that. Paolo and Franz have carried an extremely heavy burden throughout this season. It's time to give them some relief and give them the spacing that they need to be the best versions of themselves. This team right now, with where they're at, is not doing that. And that's very, very clearly what's kind of holding this group back. I am the dose of optimism. Let me give you some optimism. I'm going to talk a little bit about the standings and why the Eastern Conference is continuing to give the Orlando Magic plenty of grace. Little standings update coming up here in just a moment. But first, today's episode of Locked On Magic is brought to you by our friends over at BetterHelp. What are some of your relationship green flags? We often hear about the red flags we should avoid, but what if we focus more on identifying the positive signs in our relationships, those green flags? If you're not sure what they look like, therapy can help you identify them, actively practice them, and even embody that green flag energy yourself. Whether you're dating, married, building a friendship, or just working on yourself, therapy can help you form relationships that love you back. Therapy helps you develop healthy boundaries and improves your communication skills. It empowers you to set clear expectations and express your needs in relationships. Therapy provides tools for managing conflict in ways that strengthen your connections rather than break them down. BetterHelp makes it easy by offering online therapy with more than 30,000 licensed therapists to choose from. And if you need to switch therapists, you can do so at no extra cost. Discover your relationship green flags with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNBA today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOnNBA. We are getting to the point of the season where we do need to start looking at the standings. We're not yet 3/4 of the way through the season. When we get to that last quarter of the season, That's when we really, really dive into the standings. That's about 10, 12 games from now. But it is hard, especially with the Magic losing the way that they're losing, not to be paying a little bit of attention to what's going on in the standings and what's going on around the team. It does feel like the Magic are in free fall. Like it just does feel that way. You look at the standings, we expected the Magic to be competing for fourth. They were, until December 23rd, they were sitting in the 5 seed, the 4-5 seed. They were in that battle, and now they're sitting in 8th. Now they're sitting in 8th, a half game ahead of Atlanta, 2 games ahead of Chicago at 22 and 29, and 1.5 games back of 6th and 7th with the Detroit Pistons at 25 and 25, and the Miami Heat still having played only 48 games at 24 and 24. The Magic have played 3 more games. They lost all 3 of those games. So the Magic are truly 8th in the Eastern Conference right now. I would advise this when we talk about standings. I am going to talk about standings. I just want to make a bigger point about this, but it's on the Magic to stack up wins. It's on the Magic to get wins and pull ahead of these teams. It doesn't matter what any of these teams are doing if the Magic don't win. And so I'm going to repeat what I said the last time we did a standings check, the last time we did this kind of thing. When the Magic get home from this road trip, they have 10 of their next 11 games at the Kia Center. If the Magic could come out of this road trip 2-3, and maybe they will, back to a tough back-to-back, but it's not impossible for them to still come out 2-3 on this road trip and be 2-4 overall. But the Magic struggling on this road trip, over the next 11 games after this road trip ends, the Magic are probably going to need to be 7-4. And that still leaves them potentially under 500. But I said this time and time again, February is the month that's going to determine where the Magic finish in the standings. With how the teams are struggling, Milwaukee's now 5-5 in their last 10. They've lost 4 in a row. Detroit is now 4-6 in their last 10. They're 500. They've cooled off. Miami blew a lead against the Chicago Bulls. They are still a mess, and the Jimmy Butler saga is going to end here on Thursday, most likely. Maybe that straightens them out. Miami's a more dangerous team than we think. I would say this. To be the 6th seed, it's going to be 500. And so the Magic have to do everything in their power to get back to 500. And the fact that they're right now looking at a very difficult task of getting to 500 by the end of this home stretch, to the beginning of March, that's going to be a major challenge for them moving forward. But again, this time at home is a chance to recover. The Orlando Magic lost all 5 games on that road trip early in the season. They were 3-2, they were 3-7 at that point. So the Magic aren't even the furthest below, or 3-6. The Magic are the furthest below 500 they've been all year at this point. If they could find a way to split this back to back, huge, absolutely huge. But the Magic are going to have to find, but the Magic lost those 5 games on that road trip, all 5 games on that road trip in November. And then came home, won all 5 games at home, made that all back. That's how the Magic have to think about this stretch coming up. They got to make up their road losses at the Kia Center. And they've got to be dominant at the Kia Center the rest of the way this season. They've got to protect their home floor if they want any chance to be in the playoffs, to be in a good playoff season. It won't be easy. It won't be. This team hasn't won consecutive games since December 23rd. And so the power, they're not in control of their own destiny. I want to just repeat that. They are not in control of their own destiny. But there is still plenty of games and plenty of time to make up ground, to make a run, to climb the standings, and make us forget about how bad this month has been. There's still plenty of time. But the Magic got to do it. And February is the month they have to do it because March is a little bit more difficult and the end of the season is really tough. They close the year at home versus Boston. I believe it's Atlanta, Boston, at Indiana, at Atlanta. They're going to get Atlanta here twice coming up in the next 2 weeks. Huge games now against the Hawks. The Magic have to win these games. And right now, we obviously can't trust the Magic to win any game against any opponent They have the second worst net rating since December 23rd. Until they face the Washington Wizards, they still got 2 more games against Washington. There's no one you trust this team to beat. That's the reality. They got to prove it again. They got to prove themselves again. They got to find it again. But despite losing all these games, the Magic are not out of this race. Like I said, they're a game and a half back of Miami and Detroit for 6th. Easy to make up. They're 3.5 back of Milwaukee for 5th. That will be a little bit more of a challenge, but not impossible. Then again, they're a half game ahead of Atlanta for 9th. And sitting in the 9-10 play-in game, I think would be considered a disaster. That would be a season. That would be an unfathomably bad season. Like, I thought there was a chance the Magic could be in the 7-8 game as the 7 seed. If things didn't go right. I did not ever think the Magic would be flirting with being in that 9-10 game. And so it is on the Magic now to right the ship and get themselves back. They can do it. But it starts with getting that first win, and it starts with pushing this team forward. Get to 500, get back in that race for 6th, and then move forward from there. That's the goal. That's what this team has to do, and it just starts with getting 1 win. They can do that Wednesday night in Sacramento. Not clear yet if Zach LaVine is going to play in that game, but Sacramento's still very potent despite all of that. But that's going to do it for me today. I want to thank you all again for listening to today's episode of Locked On Magic. Of course, find me on Twitter at PhilipRR_OMD. Subscribe to the podcast at Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, Himmel, Google Play, Spotify, Odyssey, and all filming stuff. You download podcasts to your podcast-enabled listening device. So you can find us as well on YouTube. Just search for Locked On Magic. For the latest on the Orlando Magic, be sure to check out OrlandoMagicDaily.com. You can find us on Twitter at OMagicDaily. And for even more Orlando Magic content, be sure to check out my Patreon page, the Orlando Magic Hub, at patreon.com/Orlando Magic Hub. At some point on Wednesday, I will break down what trades could look like for the key targets that the Orlando Magic have, assuming nothing breaks before then. You can check that out again at patreon.com/Orlando Magic Hub. As always, thank you for your support. As if all that's not enough, your favorite podcast now has a newsletter. Introducing the Locked On Magic Daily newsletter, the one-stop for ultimate team and league coverage, delivered right to your inbox. Sign up for free now at LockedOnDaily.com. That's LockedOnDaily.com, and start your day with the all-new free Locked On Magic newsletter. Don't forget, too, that the Duvin Welcome to the Arena 3.0 Magic collab party is coming up at the Great Southern Box Company Food Hall and Bar on Orange Blossom Trail. Went to the party last year. It was a great time hanging out with Magic fans. Got a lot of great gear. You can go to Duvin and check out all the great gear that's coming out, pre-order it, and pick up at the event. Should be a good time to get Magic fans together. We'll see if we're feeling better about things at that point, but always a good time hanging out with Magic fans through all kinds of weather. But that's going to do it for me today. I want to thank you all again for listening to today's episode of Locked On Magic for Orlando Magic Daily and Locked On Magic. This has been Philip Rossman-Reich. We'll see you all again next time for another episode of Locked On Magic.